Hello everyone, my name is Giselle, my pronouns are they, them, and welcome to my Flosstube today. I know this video is very long. The end section is going to be about all the books that I've read because I've been reading a lot, and then this front section is obviously going to be about all the stitching I've done. So I've worked on 9 projects. I have spent 47 hours and 30 minutes stitching in the last 3 weeks since my last update. I've been very busy, so I didn't have time to film an update, but I still managed to squeeze in some stitching time. And I have done around 15,000 stitches, so I'm very happy with all that progress. I have a new start, and then also I had a start and a finish. So without further ado, let's get into all of that. So my very first project, I don't know the name of it. It's one of those ones that is like sampler flower, number this. But I just call it Autumn Flowers. It's from Selenmar X Stitch. And this is what it looks like. And I'm not going to be doing the border. I just do the inner part. And this I ended up working on for an hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to go in the projects that I got the least amount of progress on, the projects I got the most amount of progress on. I'm really happy with the project I got the most amount of progress on. The first couple projects don't have a lot of progress, but then my last few have a lot. So this one, it was, an hour and 20 minutes, and it was 2.82% of my stitching time, and it ended up getting 289 stitches. And I do have a picture of where it was the last time you would have seen it. So I just started in one of the center flowers, and here is where it's looking today. So I finished off the center rows, and then I've moved on to the next rows. I don't know what this fabric is called. It's just some green 25 count. It's not hand dyed or anything special. Just a green fabric, and then it's 25 count 1/1 full cross, and it's stitching up pretty fast, and it's very fun to stitch on. It's very satisfying to see like all these I don't know how well you can see them, but just like all the tiny little stitches are like very cute and satisfying. Anyway, I don't normally do like full cross on like 25 count or 28 count. I usually do half cross with 2 strands, which just is a very different look. And so this is like very like, it's just very nice to look at. It's something different than I typically do for like my full coverage. Anyway, speaking of my full coverage, my next project is Visit Mordor. The designer of this is By Country Magic Stitch, and when my finishes last time was by the same designer because I'm trying to do one of these every year. I started this on my anniversary, so on June 25th. This is what it's going to look like when it's finished, and I started up here in this top right-hand corner. Right? Yeah, the top right-hand corner. That's where I start all my full coverages. I just like working down because I don't finish my threads. I just pull them up and then stitch over them. I worked on this for 3 hours and 13 minutes, and it was 6.8% of my stitching time. I'm trying to do an hour every week. I'm in my 3rd week, so I've done 3 hours so far. And for this, I've already done 1,761 stitches. So there we go. And I'm kind of just alternating. I'll just choose a color and put in a strand, and then I'll move on to the next color and put in a strand, just so I'm not like getting burnt out, because right here there's just such a huge block coming out of Mount Doom that like I think it's gonna be very easy to get burnt out in these colors. So I'm just like alternating between like the lighter and then the darker and then a purple, and a lighter and a darker and a purple, or etc. But I'm really excited to get over to the eye. Also, my needle minder is from Crafty Emily. Her Ko-fi shop, she takes like off and on pause quite often, but I'll leave it down below. She does really cool, so this is just a postage stamp. and then she puts them on like a very thin like piece of wood, like a balsa wood or something. I don't know if it's actually balsa wood, but it's just like a very thin piece of wood. It's very lightweight, but it gives it like really good stability. And then she resin coats them, so it's like very durable. Like you can throw your needles on here all day and they're not gonna like scuff up the stamp or anything. Even though it's like a larger needle minder compared to some of my other ones, as you can see, it's more lightweight than like any of my metal needle minders. It's so lightweight and they're really beautiful. And I especially love these Lord of the Rings ones that she has, but she has other ones. Oh my gosh, I just threw it on the ground. But I have like another one that from her that's also like a butterfly, which is super beautiful. I actually have it right over here on a different project. That's also super beautiful. These are the only two that I have by her, but I would be lying if I didn't say that I peruse her shop like very frequently and I'm tempted to buy all the things. Hey, look, we match. But I don't really have like a huge budget to spend on things. But I'm really hoping that she continues to post some of the Lord of the Rings ones because I would love to get more of those in my collection. But for now, I just have the ring one and I really love it. I'll pick that up later because it's really far down there, but I promise I won't step on it. Anyway, that's my progress on that. And like I said, I'll leave Emily's shop linked down below and also her Flosstubes because she is one of my favorite Flosstubers. And okay, my next whip, the stroll under the ring in mini from Artisy. This is artwork by Leonid Afromov, and this is, oh, I'm sorry if you can hear that motorcycle. This is also a newer start. I mean, I've only been going on it for like a few months, but it's not a new start by any means. I started it in April. But I ended up working on this for 3 hours and 22 minutes. It was 7.09% of my stitching time, and this is what it looks like. But since I'm doing this full cross on an 18 count, I actually am starting up in this corner. So that's what the artwork looks like. And then I have a picture of where it was the last time I showed it to you. So this is what it looked like last time you saw it. And then since then, I have put in 573 stitches. So not a ton of progress, but a little bit. And it is now at 12% even. So it's coming along beautifully. This is a really fun project to stitch on just because it's so vibrant. It's so many different colors and like literally I get sick of stitching colors very easily, and this project is very nice for that because when you go down and like like in the diagonals, you choose one color or you choose it, you stitch it, and then the next color is like something totally different. So you're working with a blue and then a purple and then an orange and then a yellow and then a pink and then etc. So you're constantly changing, and this like is very stimulating to work on for my brain. Let's see. I don't think I have anything else to say about that, but it was very fun to stitch on. I very much enjoyed it. Okay, my next project, another Lord of the Rings piece. I can never escape it. I think I have, 3 Lord of the Rings pieces today. I just really do love Lord of the Rings. Okay, so this project, oh shoot, I have my cover picture I left like in its project bag over here. So let me just grab that and hopefully I don't like move this too much, which I think I already did. I'm so sorry. Okay. Whoop, just a second. But this actually will let me show you what this looks like. I'm sorry if you like get motion sick. Okay. So this is a kit. This is from reelless, and this is what it looks like. So Green Hills. Again, since I'm doing like mostly full crosses, I'm working from this corner, and it's obviously a bunch of hobbit holes, and their kit comes looking like this if you're interested. So it comes on a bunch of cards, numbered, and then it tells you like they have a bunch of blends and stuff, so it'll tell you like which ones to blend together, how many strands to do, if you want to do full cross or half cross. It is all laid out very clearly. So far I've had no issues with it, and it's my first kit and I'm enjoying it a lot. This thread is thicker than a DMC. It's a wool acrylic blend, and it's like very like fluffy, and doing 2 strands of it on a 14 count, which is what this fabric is, which normally I really hate 14 count, but I knew I had to do 14 count for this because it's so thick with 2 strands. Like, you wouldn't be able to take this kit and put it on an 18 count because I think it would truly be unstitchable. Anyway, well, sorry about that whole hullabaloo, but this is what it looked like the last time I worked on it. And I don't know what my percentage was exactly because I hadn't really been updating this. Although I do have like a semi-accurate percentage since this is full coverage. I can like see how many squares I filled off out of the total squares. Anyway, so I feel like I've done a pretty good amount. I filled in a lot of the blue over here. I filled in like all the dark green. I did a good amount of the purple over here. Anyway, so far on this, I'm actually around 3% out of the total chart. And there's around 60 or 36,000 stitches in total. And I've done around 1,100. But that's not totally accurate because like I've done some in blocks that aren't like done, so I'm not counting them yet. Hopefully that all makes sense. But anyway, it should take me about 231 more hours to finish this chart, but it was 7.42% of my stitching time. I worked on it for 3 hours and 31 minutes. But yeah, the sky is full of both half cross and full cross. And yeah, it's very textural and it's very thick where it asks for 2 strands full cross, and it's been a lot of blended threads so far, but I really enjoyed working on it. It does take a little bit more, it's more like concentration for me than just a full cross project. Even like I have a different project that I'll show you in a minute. That's another full cross project, but it's in Pattern Keeper that has blended threads. And even that is less concentration because even that you get a long strand of blended DMC and then you can just run with it for like miles and miles. Whereas this, because the wool acrylic thread is like very like fuzzy, I feel like I can only work with lengths around this long before they really start fraying to the point where they're like unworkable. So I definitely have to work with shorter lengths on this than I do with my DMC, unfortunately, especially when I'm doing full cross with the 2 strands. It just like, it really starts fraying up really bad. Sometimes I only do strands that long, which is wild for me because, I mean, my normal DMC is, yeah, typically, I mean, yeah, probably like that long that I work with. So like doing the strength, it just feels so much shorter. And sometimes with my blended project, I'll just do a full length that's like really, really long for the blended threads because I'm not like doubling my strands like I normally do for a loop start. I'm just doing the full length. Hopefully all of this is making sense. I don't know if it is. I feel like I'm not very coherent today. But anyway, I've really enjoyed working on that. And I'm sorry I bumped you a bunch trying to get that project. Okay, my next project is the Haunted Carousel. Ugh, I do love this project. It's so good. Okay, so the Haunted Carousel, this is by the Witchy Stitcher. The original project is supposed to look... Oh, stop it. Look something like this, but I'm going to convert it all to like pinks and maybe some purples, I've decided, because that gray pole in the middle, I don't know what color to make it, and I was afraid that if I did pinks, if I did a pink, it would blend in too much to the fabric or the poles that I've already stitched. Anyway, I wanted to look something like this, but I might add some purple into, and I'm not positive. But the last time I stitched on this, it was looking like this. So I've done the top portion, all of the black, and then I've stitched the poles and half of the horse butt and some of the skeleton. I don't know if you can really see, but some of the bones are in there. And now I have finished the skeleton. I've almost done this one, and then there you go. You can see that I've finished the bones, so I just need to stitch around it. So next I'll be doing this one. The problem with this project, so like I said, I do need to choose what color I want the pole to be. I'm afraid if I do a lighter pink, there won't be enough contrast with the fabric. And if I choose a pink that's near any of these, it will, I don't know, just like blend in too much. If I go too dark, it will be too similar to the black. And if I choose like a different tone of pink, that it won't look good. So I'm thinking I might do like a lilac or like a lavender. Chris thinks I should do, my husband thinks I should do like a gray, but I don't know if I want to add gray to this. So I'm thinking, and I'm having a hard time with it. My other problem with this is that I have no idea what colors I used here. I didn't write it down, and I've completely forgotten. And I thought I had them pulled out, but I cannot find them. So who knows what colors I used here. I'm gonna have to go through my entire DMC collection and try to figure it out. And because it has more pull down here, and once I finish the horses, I'm gonna have to figure out. So the poles might look a little different underneath, and maybe it's the shadows that change the colors a little bit, because I should have written it down, and I did not write it down because I'm a chaos goblin. Anyway, that's my progress on that. I ended up working on it for 3 hours and 43 minutes, and it was 7.85% of my stitching time. Okay, my next project is actually, oh, and I ended up getting 864 stitches into it, which I'm really happy about. I am at, my total percentage for it is 38%. I'm almost at 39%. And when I started working on it, I think I was around 29%, so I did almost 10% into it, which I'm really happy about. Okay, my next project is La Scapiglata, I think is how you say it. And I don't need a before picture because this was a start and a finish. Again, I'll have everything linked below. But the designer is Cross Stitch Obsession. And here it is. If you don't recognize this, this is a piece of artwork by Leonardo da Vinci. And this is used at the end of, the reason I had like personal nostalgia for it is it's used at the end of the movie, sorry, I had like a thread on me, the movie Ever After was the first place I ever saw this. And now I just have great love for Leonardo da Vinci as an artist in general, an inventor. He's just like an incredible person, an incredible queer artist. But anyway, I think it's really beautiful, and it was so fast to stitch. It was only 1,600 stitches, and it took me only 4 hours, like 4 hours and 15 minutes or something. It was very, very fast to stitch up, and I just really got super duper absorbed. And this is my first like mini masterpiece that I've stitched for myself. I've stitched 4 of them so far, I think, and I've given them all away. So I was like, dang it, I'm gonna stitch one for myself. But I was able to see my sisters last month because of my grandma's funeral. And so I asked them if they want one too, and they all said yes. So I'm going to be stitching a few more of these and giving them to my sisters. Although I need to figure out how I'm going to frame it because it's kind of an odd shape because it's a little square. Anyway, I love it so much. I think she's just so stunning. And it was really cool because I took it to my sister's house and I was going to pull it out to show her. And she already had it hanging on her wall. And I was like, okay, so she definitely wants one, I think. But it was just cool to be able to like hold it up to a picture of it in person. Anyway. Okay, so that's that one. All right, next project. Another Lord of the Rings project. This one is, I ended up getting, oh, and that was 8.92% of my stitching time, and it was 4 hours and 14 minutes of stitching. Okay, Home in the Mountains is my next one. So this is a project. So it's by Golden Kite. Although I don't know if they licensed it because they don't list the artist on there, which is Jerry Vanderstelt, unfortunately. So I don't know how I feel about that. But the artist is Jerry Vanderstelt, and I really want him to be credited. If I knew that this was potentially pirated when I bought it, I wouldn't have bought it, but I do have it, so I'm gonna stitch it. But I don't know. I want to give that disclaimer because I don't know. I feel bad about it. Anyway, Home in the Mountains. I ended up working on this one for 5 hours and 53 minutes, and it was 12.4% of my stitching time. I started up here in this corner because I'm doing it on 28 count, and I ended up, oh, excuse me, pardon me. I ended up doing 2,201 stitches in 5 hours and 53 minutes. And I do have a picture of where this was the last time you saw it, so let me pull that up. So here we go. And oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so chaotic. So I mostly have been working down here because I'm just trying to fill out this like diagonal. And here it is. Just a lot of sky. And like I said, this is the other one that I'm doing with like blended threads. And some of these are just really long. Like these are after they've already been stitched. And I will just go with them because instead of folding them in half and doing a loop start, since they're blended, I just take the whole length and I don't cut it in half. Anyway, I'm really happy with my progress. I've been trying to do, ever since I finished my arrow board piece, I've been trying to do about 1,000 stitches a week on this because I just couldn't work on this while working on arrow board because it was just so much teal. Welcome to arrow board. It was just teal and teal and teal, and my brain felt like it was melting. It was just not doable for me. But now that I finished arrow board, I've been trying to pull this out for like 1,000 stitches a week, and yeah, so I've done that for a couple weeks. I haven't done it this week yet, but I'll try to do that sometime in the next couple days. And it's been very nice being able to pull this out finally, because I did start it almost 2 years ago, and I've only gotten like 13,000 stitches into it, which is not a lot in 2 years. I would like to have more progress on that. But I'm very happy with the progress I made in the last 2 weeks. Okay, my next project is by okay, here we go. So it's the Everyday Witches Familiar, The Dog, by Unconventional X Stitch, and the art is by Elizabeth Alba. And I am very obsessed with this art. It is so beautiful, and also it is very green, and green is my favorite color, so it's just like very fun to stitch. We have like the same armchair. Not really. Hers is more beautiful because it's patterned. Let me pull up a slightly more big one. Maybe you can see it even better there. The charting in this thing is wild, though. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But just like the amount of texture in this is insane. Okay, so this one, I ended up working on it for 6 hours and 29 minutes. It was 13.67% of my stitching time. And I ended up doing 2,054 stitches. Okay, let's see. I know I have a before picture. Okay, here it is. So here it was the last time you saw it. And I mostly was working up here in that greenery. I started working in a new diagonal because I just really wanted to work in all my parked threads. I've decided since the last time I worked on this that I wanted to get all my parked threads worked in. And so that's what I did. So you can see that bunch of herbs really grew. I got a lot of those parked threads worked in. A bunch of these aren't parked threads. They're just threads that are waiting to get cut off. And those don't bother me because as soon as I get down to them, I just cut them off. But parked threads, I hate working around them because they get in my way. But these, if they're in my way, I just cut them off. Anyway, so this bunch is almost done, but I've started working down here now. I wish I had taken a picture of it, what this bunch looked like around 1,000 stitches in, before I got 2,000 stitches in, because it was like illegible. It looked like nonsense, because there is so much confetti and texture in this piece. The same color is not next to each other at all ever, unless it's black. Like, black is the only color that there are actually like lines of stitches next to each other. Besides that, it's just like there's a stitch here and here and here and here and here and here and here with that color. And then the next color, it's the same thing. And the next color, it's the same thing. And black is the only one that gives that structure. And so until every single color is in, it looks like nonsense. And it gives like a really beautiful, incredible like texture to the eye in the piece. It's stunning, but it makes it very unsatisfying to stitch unless you're filling in diagonals. Or not in diagonals, but in like sections. And a diagonal is what I like to stitch in, but like, I'm glad that I decided to really like fill in, and that's how I like to stitch anyway, is like I like filling in every single stitch. I don't like leaving stitches. But if you're the kind of person who likes leaving stitches, I don't think this is the kind of art for you, because it looks honestly terrible until you get every single stitch in that area done. And then all of a sudden it comes together and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I do think it's really interesting though, for Home in the Mountains and the Everyday Witches Familiar. Well, this one I only started in October. So this is less than a year old, and I'm already at 10%. I just hit 10% on this. But this one is at 13,900 stitches, and this is at 13,500 stitches. So they're exactly pretty much at the same point, but this is at 10%, and this is at 3.91%. So this chart is significantly larger than this chart. So it's just interesting to like compare that, be like, oh yes, this one has even more stitches than this one, but this one is so much further along. And it also goes to show that like this one was just absolutely killing my brain with all the teal, considering I had another fully teal project and I just physically could not work on it. Whereas this one was like all greens and browns, and my brain has loved working on this, and it has been so satisfying to stitch on it. And then in less than a year, like in the last 9 months, I've already done 10% of this, which is really cool. Like, I'm really proud of how much I've done. And this is very much my aesthetic, this like coziness. Anyway, all right, my final project is so exciting. I cannot wait to show you this. You've gotten a little bit of a sneak peek. But Contessa with Squid. This is my pièce de résistance. I'm sure you all know what it looks like if you have watched my channel at all before. But this is Contessa with Squid. I'm working from this corner, as I always do. And I spent 15 hours and 41 minutes on it. It was 33.03% of my stitching time. And I have a couple pictures that I can show you. But let's just start with where it was the last time you saw it for that little section. And here is where it is today. And I reached an exciting milestone on this one. It is at 10%. I'm so excited. I cannot believe my baby is at 10%. Yeah, I've been working on this one for a while. I ended up doing 4,851 stitches on them, and there we go. And the total is at 36,735 stitches, and 10% of the way through. In total, I've done 110 hours. And I think it is so beautiful. And here's a little bit of a close-up. I know the black can sometimes look a little patchy on camera, but it looks really, really full coverage in person. And this is 2/1 half cross on 28 count. Okay, so yeah, I've been just really, really focusing on getting this section filled in. I do have a picture from a few weeks ago when I posted my first video back, and it's really cool to see how much progress has happened in just a couple months. Ooh. So this is where it was a few months ago. I had my very harsh diagonal up top, and then that whole like tentacle was not down there at the bottom, and it was just that big hollow and everything. And now I've just filled in so much at the top and so much at the bottom, and I'm still working down here trying to get this filled in, but I took it out of the nerd hoop for you all to see at 10%. And I think it's also cool to see like what two projects at two like drastically different sizes are looking at 10%. So this is 10% for a project that's 367,500 stitches big versus a project that is 139,050 stitches big. And they're both at 10%. And like this one is just so much bigger. I don't think I've showed enough ever, maybe. I don't even think I can on here how just massively huge the fabric is. I do have a 3-inch border cut around this whole thing, but it's gonna be giant. And I love it so much. And I'm not at all like bored or sick of working on it, and I'm still gonna keep trying to do 0.33% every week until the end of the year, and hopefully further than that, but that's my goal for right now. And so far, it is going very well. I haven't worked on it yet this week though, because I really wanted to show you what exactly 10% looked like before I kept working on it though. Okay, so that is it for my active stitching. I do have a little bit of haul, some shout outs, and I wanted to show you one old finish of mine. Actually, my very first finish. This is from January 2022. So my very first cross stitch, I was watching Sarah's channel, Sarah's booktube channel. I can leave her linked below, but she had started a Flosstube channel. She doesn't have it anymore, but I loved watching all her booktube videos, and so I started watching her floss tubes, even though I didn't care about cross stitching at all. And she started showing some stuff from the Witchy Stitcher, and I was like, oh wait, cross stitch can be cool. And I ended up buying a pattern, going to Michael's, buying fabric and floss, and stitching this up in like 2 days, or maybe 1 day even. I stitched it very fast, and then I made it into a little bookmark. And this was my very first cross stitch ever, Season of the Witch. And I figured I would show it because I've never showed it on here before. My tension was incredibly tight. You can like, this is 18 count, and you can like see all the way through all the black because I was just like yoinking that thread. I definitely stitched this in a wooden hoop for sure. And I also didn't understand what 2 threads meant when it, like the pattern called for 2 threads. I thought it was calling for 2 skeins. I was like, oh, you need 2 skeins for this pattern. So I bought 2 skeins of each of these colors, and I think I probably still own each of those 2 skeins because I haven't even used up the first skein of them, except for the black, obviously. I've gone through many, many skeins of black at this point. Anyway, there it is. Sorry I'm shaking so much, but there's my first cross stitch, and I think it turned out pretty well, all things considered. I didn't know anything about cross stitching when I started, and I watched like half of a 2-minute video about how to cross stitch. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I was just like, you make an X. Okay, I didn't know that your X's were supposed to go the same direction. I didn't know anything. I was just like, I can do this, and I did it, and my very first few several projects were very messy, but anyway, I just turned it into a little bookmark, and it's very bulky and big, but I love it a lot. And I found it when I was searching for something the other day, and I was like, wait, I have to show the people. Anyway, so that's my first thing I wanted to share with you. And then the other Flosstube thing, well, I had a couple more. So my next Flosstube thing, nobody has ever really asked, but I figured I would share. So this is what I use to stitch. I don't have like any fancy lighting situation. I use this. It's a book light. It's from Indie Beacon. I got it from my local bookstore. If your local indie bookstore doesn't carry these, you should recommend that they carry them because they are very good. They are rechargeable. So you just plug it in. They come with a charger. And you just charge it, and I've been using them for a couple years. I have 2 because I like to have one that I can use, and then when the other one, when it starts to get like a little dim, then I'll switch them and charge the other one, and then I can stitch. But one would be sufficient because they charge very quickly, and it has 3 settings. It has like a warm, a cool, and a mixed. I use the mixed every time. It doesn't have a brightness setting, but I find that this is like really, really nice for me. Sometimes I do wish I could have a little bit of a dimmer light, like if I'm stitching in bed and my husband's trying to sleep and I I want to be stitching. Sometimes I wish it could be a little bit less bright because it is really strong in my opinion. But this is what I use to stitch. I have my frames that I use. I usually just use like nerd hoops, and I like that you can just clip it anywhere on it. So whatever section I'm working in, like if I'm going to be working down here, I'll move it over here, and then you can just kind of like bend it, and you can actually get it quite close to it, which I like because sometimes I'm like, oh, all the way up here is not enough light. I need this sucker close. And if I need it all the way over here, I just move it over here. And it is quite flexible. And anyway, that's what I use. No fancy lighting situation over here. I think it was quite expensive for a book light, maybe like $20. But the amount of hours of use that I've gotten out of here, I mean, every single minute that I've have tracked on here, like I've stitched over 300 hours so far this year, has been with this, so it's definitely gotten its money worth for me. And then also these are the scissors that I use. I did get them off of Amazon like in 2022, and they're just very, very sharp. I know there are some that are less sharp, but these are what I use, and I like the ones that have the little sheaths because I leave them tucked in to my gram guard. And this is my stitching situation. Then I just have my needle minder with my needles, and I'm good to go. I'm happy with this. And a lot of times I'll just tuck my little thread ends into this side. So here is actually my current collection of little thread ends, and eventually I'll get enough and I'll like put them in a little jar. Here's like my current little ort situation going on, but I usually will just like tuck them into my current work in the corner. But that's me. And I figured I would just share because whether I'm like stitching with a hoop or stitching on a stand or whatever, this is all I need, and it's perfect. And before that, I used to like have to stitch by a lamp or something. I just love how portable this is, and if I'm like leaving the house, I just always make sure I like throw it in the bag, and it's perfect. Okay, a couple more things. I did want to shout out a couple Flosstubers. So Dace from the Dace Man Zero, he is not posting a Flosstube this month, he said, because he's just kind of been overwhelmed. So you might have missed, but he's been posting a bunch of YouTube shorts instead. So you can still go see all of the progress, including the tiny, the tiny incredible long dog that they're doing 1/1 on 56 cal, which is amazing. So if you want to see updates on all of Dace's projects, they're just on YouTube Shorts. So you can go to his channel and go to the Shorts tab, and they're all right there. And they're all like less than 30 seconds. Super fast, super easy, and you can catch up on all the amazing work that he has done over the past month. So I just wanted to give a shout out because you might have missed those. And there are some really, really good updates. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but some good updates you need to go check out. Okay. I also wanted to shout out Stitching with Charlie. She had given me a shout out, and I didn't know her channel existed, but then I watched her video, and she had me laughing so much. I love her personality. Chef's kiss. She's so funny, and I really liked her a lot. So I just wanted to just let you all know that she existed and say thank you for the shout out, but also just like I really liked her. She was so funny and had me like rolling around with laughter. our senses of humor definitely matched. And then thanks to her, she also shouted out Envis, and they had posted a video about spotlighting like queer and LGBTQIA plus designers. And so I watched that video. I haven't gone to watch any of Envis's other like regular videos, although I know they are stitching um the stitching lupine like stitch along that I'm also stitching, that I haven't updated because I haven't worked on it in the last couple weeks, but that I'm stitching um in the 4 parts. You know the one I'm talking about. The one that I'm obsessed with on 46 count. They're stitching that one too, and I've seen that in the thumbnail, so I'm really excited to watch some of their other videos. But I did watch the queer designer spotlight, and I really enjoyed that video, so I also want to give a shout out to Envis and thank Charlie for also shouting them out, because I wouldn't have watched that video without Charlie. So thanks to both of you. I enjoyed that video. Thank you, Envis, for making it. Because a lot of those designers, although I'd heard of them, I didn't know a lot of them were queer, so thank you. And then the final thing is that I think I'm going to be going to Midsummer Stitch, which I think is like in a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. I don't have anything planned that weekend, but I also haven't bought my ticket yet, so, you know, things can always change. But I think I'm going to be going, so if you were also going to go, let me know. But Midsummer Stitch is by Lindy Stitches, and there are some incredible designers that are going to be there. It's an online retreat. It's $15 to go. There's going to be stitching rooms, and then you can buy some exclusive patterns and then just sit and talk to new people, or old friends as well. And some of the designers are Jedex Stitch and Stitching Lupine and Lindy Stitches and Tiny Modernist, I think, are the 4. And I really enjoy all of them, especially the first 2. Jedex Stitch, I adore. So I'm so excited, and I cannot wait to see what they've made. So I think I'm probably gonna, I don't know what the like exclusive designs are yet, but I think I'm probably gonna buy a ticket, like even if it's just to be able to buy those. But I think I probably will go to do the hangouts as well. Okay, so those are my shout outs and my other notes. I do have some haul. I know this video is already really long, and I haven't even talked about books, but I'll try to make the haul quick. So, some DMC. I had a lot of colors I was like out of or about to run out of. I bought some silk. So this is thanks to Kaylee Cross Stitching's video. She recommended some silk, and I was trolling around on the 123 website, 123 Stitches website, looking at DMC and floss that I needed, and I saw that they carried one of the brands, which is the YLI silk thread, which is a fine silk thread, and it's a 100 weight. So I bought it in red. And I'm gonna try to stitch 1/1 on 56 count and be just like Dace. So we'll see how that goes. But I also ended up buying some 46 count from them because, sorry about that horrible noise. I don't have very much 46 count. I only have a purple, that green, that's the whole piece is allocated. So to play with, I only have a purple and a white. And that's just not enough. So I also ended up getting this color in Cactus Wren. Just like a medium brown. And this color in Raw Natural Bergen Linen, which is kind of what it says, a raw natural linen. Anyway, so now I have some more 46 count to play with because I really like 46 count over 2. I think it's beautiful. And then when I went to my grandma's funeral, I was able to stop by an L&S because my local I don't have any local L&S. My closest L&S is like a 4-hour drive. So I was able to go, and I picked up a few things. I was able to go to Stitcher's Paradise, and I bought some threads and a couple fabrics. Some more things for tiny stitching, and some other things too. So, a couple fabrics. I picked up Murky 40 count Picture This Plus because I have a different piece that I'm stitching something on, so I don't have any Murky left, and I think it's beautiful, so I wanted to pick it up. I got Glen Ellen Blend. I don't know. It's like a yellowy green or a greeny yellow in 30 count. And then this is another 30 count, and it's a miscellaneous linen. Oh, mustard seed. I think that name is pretty accurate. And then this is 40 count Fresco from Picture This Plus. It's like a pale pink, but it has like splotches of like green. Okay, I got Jump Clump, which I've been lusting after for, I don't know, maybe 6 months, maybe more. I think since around October, whenever this was released, I've been lusting after this for a long time. The tiny little spider up here is so cute, but I've been really wanting to do Jump Clump for a long time, so I finally bought it, and it calls for a lot of weeks dye works, but I don't stitch with weeks, so I ended up substituting all the weeks for other colors, which was nice because they had all the weeks right there. And since I don't have an L&S, I've thought about buying this off of 123 Stitch multiple times, but since I don't have an L&S, and honestly the pictures on 123 Stitch are pretty shit, it's like really hard to like see them and be like comparing them. And I guess I could go to like another store that had like better pictures, but anyway, instead of buying the weeks, I was able to take the weeks and then compare them to Classic Colorworks and other stuff, Gentle Arts and Threadworks. So I did. So here is my haul of colors that are going to go into this. And instead of being a dumbass, I wrote it down on my phone in my notes app what the substitutions are. I'm so proud of myself. You should be really proud of myself too. I was like, I'll remember, and then I was like, I'm not going to remember, you freaking idiot. So I wrote them down in the store. Okay. I also bought Threadworks. If you want to know what colors I chose, I will let you know, but I figured I would save us all time. I also bought Threadworks 1097 because this is what's called for in the Jet X Stitch summer pattern from Just Cross Stitch, and I didn't have it, so I was just going to substitute another color, but I figured since I was there, I would pick it up. It's so much more like orange than I thought it would be. This is the color of the tree that the bird is standing on. Anyway, and then I ended up picking up Whisper in brown. I don't know what color this is. W118, maybe? It doesn't really say. But I picked it up in brown because I have stitched sheep in the white Whisper before. So I figured I would pick up a brown to stitch the sheep in as well. And I just wanted to have this on hand. I don't need it urgently. I just thought it would be fun. And then the final things I picked up were to do some very fun 1/1 tiny stitching. I picked up some Tudor silk. So Kaylee cross stitching recommended Tudor Silk, I think it's Gloriana Tudor Silk. Yeah, Gloriana. She said she recommends it only for 40 count, I think is the smallest she said she'd go with it. 1/1 though, full cross, which is obviously much finer than I would go with DMC. Like DMC 32 is like the tightest I'd go, but 28 I think is comfortably the smallest I'd go with DMC. So 40 count is obviously significantly smaller than that 1/1. So I picked up some colors of that because they didn't have a lot, so I just picked up a few colors that I liked. So they had milk chocolate. This looks a lot more purple in person. Olivine, which looks more grungy in person. Vanilla, I just thought was like a nice neutral. And then lacquered gold, which also looks more grungy in person. It's a lot more vibrant on camera. And I thought that this and this were really pretty together. This piece of fresco. But I don't know if it would be too tone on tone. So I'm going to have to try it to see. But I don't have any particular piece picked out. I just saw them and I was like, ooh, that's so pretty. Anyway, that's all my haul, which is so much more than normal. I don't usually have like any haul. But since I was at an LNS, and I never am, I figured I would go a little buck wild and treat myself to some fun things. Plus, I had already done that 1, 2, 3 stitch order. Okay, that is all the cross stitch stuff. We're an hour in. Let's talk about some books. Okay, so for the books, I did an excessive amount of reading. I've definitely gotten my reading groove back, and I couldn't be happier about it. I'm gonna go through them kind of like from my most favorite to least favorite, so that if you just want to hear the ones that I really loved, you can dip after those. I guess I mostly have fantasy. I have some like gothic horror, some sci-fi mystery, some nonfiction. Yeah, but the first thing that I'm going to start with isn't, I guess, my favorite that I actually read, but it ties into something I was talking about last week, which was Piranesi, my all-time new favorite love. I really loved reading Piranesi. I talked about it in my last video. This is what it looks like in case you forgot, by Susanna Clark. And it is, I don't know, I don't want to say too much about it, plus you can hear my thoughts in the last video, but it does have something to do with like liminal space and stuff like that, and it is very heavily inspired by The Magician's Nephew. So, based off of those two things, I did end up reading The Magician's Nephew. I thought it was just time to reread it anyway. I don't think I had reread it since 2016, although I've read it many times as a child, and it was so fun to reread. I had a grand old time with it. I just always loved being in this book. This was always my favorite book in the Chronicles of Narnia. In case you care about my rating, it's probably this one, then The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or no, maybe this one, then The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, then The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, then The Silver Chair, then Prince Caspian, then The Horse and His Boy, and then The Last Battle Can Go Fuck Itself. That's how I feel about this series. I would definitely love to do like a full reread, since it has probably been about 10 years since I've done a full reread of this series. But I'm actually really deeply in the mood just to reread like this one and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader and The Silver Chair. For some reason, I'm like really in the mood for those two. Although I think really the only ones that are like super worth rereading over and over are like this one, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and the Silver Chair. I'm like, Prince Caspian kind of sucks. And then so did the other ones. So anyway, those are my thoughts. But this was so fun to read. I loved getting to like catch all the. I mean, Piranesi I read first, and then this one, but it was still fun to like catch all the references between the two. I think the next time I read Piranesi, I love rereading books. I reread books a lot. I've read over 2,000 books, not including rereads, and if you counted rereads, it would be way over 3,000. Um, I just love rereading books so much. So I just it just gives me so much joy to reread. Um, so I think the next time I do reread Piranesi, because it's a favorite book now, which means it will get read every few years, probably every 5 years or so, um, which is what I tend to do with like my all-time favorite books. All-time favorite books, I tend to like put them on like the cycle of like I must read you every so often. The next time I read it, I'm gonna read this one first so I can catch more things in Piranesi. But it was still fun to read this one after the fact and catching even more references, and it was just like so fun to be back in this world, and I just like have so much nostalgia with it, and it's still so interesting, and I think this book is still even like very good even without the nostalgia, because I made my husband read this series with me um as an adult, and he still like thought this one was the best out of all of them. Um okay, my next book that I read. So like I don't think that was like necessarily my favorite out of all of them, but since we were already talking about Piranesi from last time. And same thing with I ended up reading some, I don't have a picture of it, but I ended up reading like 15 short stories from Jorge Luis Borges. I feel like I butchered that. Borges. Um, so he is an Argentinian. I am really struggling with words today. Argentinian author, and he just wrote a bunch of like really weird, speculative and fabulism, magical realism short stories. And sometimes they're like a bit longer, like 30 pages, and sometimes they're like literally a page long. And I read about 15 of them. And I read exactly 15 of them. And the reason why I picked them up in the first place was because Susanna Clark had said in an interview that she was really inspired by a few of his stories to write Piranesi. And one of them in particularly was The Library of Babel. So that is one of the ones that I read, and I can definitely like see like some of the parallels and stuff. It very much is about like liminal space and stuff. And so I did enjoy getting like sucked into his stories. I don't know that I'm necessarily like smart enough to understand all of his stuff. And I think I especially, the ones I struggled with the most were the ones that were super short. Like if they were only like 1, 2, 3 pages long, I like could not get into them at all. I didn't dislike them. I just couldn't get into them because it like wasn't enough for me to get like immersed. But if they were like 10 pages or more, then like I could get into it enough, and like they were super fascinating. Even if I feel like I didn't get all of the meanings of them. But anyway, I enjoyed reading those. Okay, let's talk about actual favorites now. Okay, The Privilege of the Sword by Ellen Kushner. Okay, so this was a reread. The first time I read this probably in 2020, I think. I gave it 4 stars. I read all 3 books in the series. They're like standalone novels, but they do kind of spoil what happened in previous books, but they're like following different characters. Anyway, so this is the second book. The first book is Swords Point. If you want to read Swords Point, you should read it before this one, because this book does heavily spoil what happens in Swords Point. But I really love this one a lot more than Swords Point. I didn't even reread Swords Point to reread this one. I think eventually I probably will reread Swords Point, maybe in like 5 years or so. But I just have been really hankering to reread this for the past year or two. So I finally did. Like I said, I initially only gave it 4 stars, but on upon reread, I love this, 5 stars. Oh my gosh. So this is A Fantasy of Manners. It is set in a fantasy world, but there's no magic in this book. It is just like another realm. Like there's no magic happening in it. It's just like not like England or whatever. It's a different place. It's Riverside and yada yada. I will say, so the main character is um younger. She's like 15 or something, which may lead you to believe that it is young adult. And I would say maybe on the older side of young adult. I would say if you're reading like Kristen Kishore, that you could read this, but it's like on the older side of young adult or younger side of or any side of like adult. Um like she is young, but there are like very like intense things that do happen in this book, and there's like a lot going on in this, but there's like talk of a lot of things. Like there's a rape scene that happens in this book. There's like talk of like sex trafficking. Um there is like I don't know, just there's also a lot of like her like discovering her sexuality and stuff. It's like sapphic and queer. Um anyway, it's very good. But what it is about is that this character is she's just living her life in the countryside, and then her mom is like getting blackmailed by her uncle, and he says that he will only stop if she sends her, the main character Catherine, if her mom like sends Catherine to come and train to be like a swords person. um and so the mom agrees, and so Catherine comes to be trained in swordsplay in the city where she's never been before. So she's just learning a lot of new things. There's like a lot of like drugs and alcohol and like a whole ton of things in this book. So again, I would just say like it's much on the older side. I feel like where I was emotionally and mentally as a teenager, I wouldn't have been able to read this, but I know there's a lot of people reading like full blown like romance books as like 12-year-olds. So I feel like everybody's at their own pace. Um, so maybe older YA, but I love it so much. I can't even begin to express. So it is slower. Like I said, it's like a fantasy of manners, and it's just like her just like learning everything and just coming to terms with herself and just learning how to be a person and stand up for herself, and learning what her interests are away from her family and all these different things. And it's just like, it's so good. I adore it. Like I said, it was a reread, but I didn't really remember. I mean, I read this in 2020, so brain was kind of fried in 2020. I didn't remember a lot of the things that happened in this, and I was listening to this on the way in the car ride like to and from the funeral. It's like a 15-hour audiobook, so it lasted me a long while. And I was like laughing. I even like was crying at certain points. I was just so invested, and oh, I don't know. I don't know what else to say because I don't want to like spoil too much, but I do love this. And I think it's a great coming of age novel, which I normally am not a lover of coming of age books, but this one is really good. I think if you really liked the third Graceling book, I think you would like this. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, also I would say the audiobook was scary as fuck. because I was listening in the car and I had it sped up a little bit, not too much, like 1.3 speed or something. But like at the end of each chapter, they had like sound effects, or like throughout the chapters, they would have like people chattering, or like at the end of the chapters, they'd have music play, or like swords clashing, or like different things. And it was so scary the first like 5 hours. Like eventually I got used to it, but I would be like driving and it all of a sudden would be like butter, and I would like jump in the car. I'd be like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Um it like scared me so much the first few hours that I was listening to it, because I just like was not expecting all the sound effects. I do not really like sound effects in books very much, so I think I'm alone in that. I hear a lot of people like them, but I am not in that. Oh, one other thing I wanted to talk about this book is just that how much the main character, it almost reminds me a little bit of like, I don't know. She's like very into this like specific book and is always reading it and like comparing her life to it and all these things, and it makes me think, I think also especially because her name is like Catherine, it makes me think a little bit of Northanger Abbey. And she's just like always like daydreaming about these characters in this book and all these things, and it just like, I really, I think it's very fun. I think it's a slower book. It's more drawn out. You follow a few different characters. Like, it's slower paced, but I think just think it's so magnificent. I love it so much. It just like was perfect book at a perfect place, and um, I really loved it. Okay, let's move on to the next book. Okay, I ended up rereading The Hobbit. This was the other book I listened to on the car ride. Um, my brain is losing it. And this was so fun. And it was actually also very fitting because I've stitched on so many Lord of the Rings things this month. Although there's no Mount Doom in this book. But this was such a fun reread. I hadn't read this since 2018. Although I probably read it like 2 or 3 times as a kid, so this was probably like my fourth or fifth time reading it. Um, Also, this book is full of like illustrations um, by um, Tolkien himself, which is so beautiful. I love it. And I didn't get to like, I wanted to when I was listening and like look through all the illustrations, but I couldn't because I was frickin' driving. Oh, I really want to stitch this piece so badly. But I couldn't because I was driving and I didn't bring this copy with me or whatever. So I'm definitely going to take some time after I'm done stitching. And this is my husband's favorite piece as well, or favorite artwork by Tolkien. Oops. Bilbo comes to the huts of the raft elves. But anyway, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was just such a delight to reread. I don't think it's like, I think I like all three of the books in the Lord of the Rings trilogy more than this one. But I still did just really love being back in this world. I think it's just such a delight, and I'm excited to like look through this and look at all the illustrations. Tolkien was just such a great artist and inventor of like worlds and languages and everything. I also really want to cross stitch his like original cover as well. Anyway, all the thoughts, but I'm sure you all know what this is about. It's about Bilbo Baggins going on an adventure to thieve from a dragon's hoard and all the things that happen on the way to the dragon. And it was, like I said, it was just so fun. And I hadn't read this since, like I said, I read it in 2018, and in 2019 I was able to go to a Tolkien exhibit and see a bunch of his art in person, and then also see some replicas, but see some of his like texts in person and his like real writings and all these cool things um, at a museum in New York City. It was like in a traveling exhibit, and that also just gave me like so much more of like an appreciation for his work. And I read this before that, so also I was just like thinking so much about like what I knew about him more since I had read this last. Anyway, it was great to be back in that world. And it makes me mad that the Hobbit movies I do not like at all. I wish I liked those movies, but they just did way too much. I do not like them. Okay. The next book is Hungerstone. This is by Kat Dunn, and this is a Carmilla retelling, sort of. It's not like a retelling of Carmilla. It's just like if you take the character of Carmilla and put her in like a new situation. So this is Sapphic, obviously. If you don't know who Carmilla is, Carmilla was one of like the earliest like vampire novels written, or it's like a novella, but it predates Dracula by like 25 years, and it was like an inspiration to Bram Stoker. Yeah, but it's lesbian vampires. What more could you want? So this is horror, but it also is not that horror. Like it has that like dread, and it's very gothic though. It feels much more gothic than it does horror. It really is only horror truly because of the vampire nature of it, because there's no like actually like graphic horror scenes too much of an extent. Like there's like a few that aren't like, I don't know. Like there's like a few like a little mildly gross scenes, but there's none that are like, I guess maybe I'm just too jarred. Maybe I've read too much horror that was like actually gross and I had to turn the book off, or set the book down and like go take a break because I was like really squeamish. Um that like somebody the descriptions in this book like didn't get me, the horror descriptions. I don't know. The scenes weren't like too gruesome. They were like mildly. I would say this is mild horror. Um, if you haven't read a lot of horror, but maybe you have read something like Dracula or Carmilla and you kind of want to get into some modern horror, I think this would be a stepping stone because it's not like overly gruesome. But it follows our main character, Lenore, and it's very slow, but she's like moving to a new home. Her like husband is suddenly wanting to move to a new place and very quickly also host a party, but the house is falling apart and it's like very bleak, and they're like near the ocean, so it's very like weather beaten and everything is rotting, and so it has that like cold dread feeling, and it's very like atmospheric. And so she's having to like oversee all these like repairs to the house and try to like train the staff and hire people and get everything in order for this dinner party that is like looming and that she's dreading and not excited. And then she's also having like bouts of illness and is feeling very sick the whole time, and she doesn't know what's going on. And right as they're getting to the place, they also come across this carriage wreck and they meet this woman named Carmilla. And I will leave it there, but I did end up really enjoying this one. I gave it 4 stars, and I just enjoyed being in this world. I enjoyed being in the writing. It just felt like very much like a gothic novel, and I just liked the atmosphere of it, and I just enjoyed the time spent in this world. I think it could have gotten like more gritty and more dark and more everything, but I'm happy with how it went. For the most part. Okay, so my next book is Snow White Learns Witchcraft. This is by Theodora Goss, and this is, excuse me, a collection of short stories, of fairy tale retelling short stories, as you would guess. And I really liked this a lot. There's not a single story in here that I didn't enjoy. I think the only thing that could have like amplified my enjoyment more is that I didn't know all their origin stories. So there were some retellings that I was like, I don't know what this is referencing. I really liked the story, but what is this a reference to? Which is just like my bad. I'm not as literate in fairy tales as maybe I could be. Um, but then even with not knowing the origins, I still really liked the fairy tales or the retellings, so you can still enjoy them even without that. But I really like this. Um, a lot of times she would even retell the same story over and over and over again. Some of them were super short, some of them were very long. Um, and I just enjoyed every minute of being in here. I really like Jane Yolen's like fairy tale retellings, and this was prefaced by Jane Yolen. And I think if Jane Yolen is saying that this is one of the best fairy tale reteller in the current age, that we've really got something here. And honestly, I liked Theodora Goss better than I like some of Jane Yolen's. So um, there's my tea. Also, it was kind of fun when I was reading Privilege of the Sword in the afterword. And Privilege of the Sword was written in 2006. In the afterword, she says thanks to Theodora Goss for like reading this and like giving me comments and stuff. So I guess they've been friends for a really long time. So that's super cool. It was just like a fun Easter egg because I just read this and then I reread Privilege of the Sword afterwards, and I was like, oh my gosh, Theodora Goss, which Theodora Goss is actually an author of one of my favorite series, the Athena Club series. So, which is why I wanted to read this in the first place because I've already read 3 of her books and really loved them. So it was just fun to read this and be like, oh, I didn't know that you were friends with, what's her name? Oh gosh, what is her name? Ellen Kushner. That's her name. Okay, another book. That's another reread. I've been rereading a lot. A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. So this is a reread. I did read this in 2017, I think. So it's been many years. And when I read this originally, I gave it 3 stars. Upon reread, this is 4 stars. I was expecting something different when I read it the first time. So upon reread, knowing more what to expect, I gave it a higher rating because I wasn't disappointed like I was the first time. So what I will say to maybe curb your potential disappointment is, I mean, and this was before the romantasy genre really even existed because I read this in 2017 the first time, but this is not a romantasy. There is like sort of a romance in here, but that is not the focus of this book, and it's not like the point of the book, I guess I would say. And I'll just leave it at that. But basically, this follows Lady Trent, and she's an old woman, and she's like looking back on her time being a natural historian of dragons, and she's like going back from her childhood and just writing through. So this follows her life from her early childhood up until she's like in her early 20s and what her life looked like then and her first adventures with dragons. And this cover is so beautiful. I love it. But as somebody who likes reading natural history books and then also reading fantasy books, like this is a really good blend of it for me. And I do enjoy her humor. Lady Trent's humor, because she like is always interjecting and like, I wish I'd known this, but I don't, and all these things. I'm still kind of gutted as well. I knew how the story was gonna go. I remember very vividly what happened and why I was very sad the first time I read it and why I was very disappointed the first time I read it, and let down. And I remembered, and even then, I was still very sad. But I'm hoping this time I'm going to actually continue with the series because the first time I just didn't have it in me to keep going because I was so depressed. So this second time I'm going to keep going with the series and see how I like the rest of the books. And I'm so excited about that. I really liked this one. Um, there we go. Those are my thoughts. Okay, the next book, The Spare Man by Mary Robinette Kowal. So this is a sci-fi mystery. So our main character is on her honeymoon with her husband, and they're on a space cruise going from, I think, Earth to Mars, and they have only been on there for like a day when somebody dies, and the murder suspect is her husband. And so the main character is like, I'm not gonna stand for this. I'm gonna get my husband free, and is doing everything in her power to like prove her husband innocent. And that's kind of like the premise of the book. Some of the things I did end up really liking this. Again, I gave it 4 stars. Some of the things I really liked about this book are that the main character is disabled. So she deals with extreme chronic pain. And since it is in the future, she does have like pain blockers and that she can kind of turn up and down in her body. So if she turns them up, she can like do a lot more. But then when she ends up, but it means that she can like damage her body more because she's not like paying attention to like her body telling her like, you need to slow down, you need to take it down. But then when she turns them down, like it means that she can like, she'll literally be bedbound for like days and like just like be in so much crippling pain. I love being able to see like a disabled character, especially somebody with chronic pain. Since I have chronic pain, it was just like definitely very, it was nice reading about somebody with chronic pain as well in a book. Although mine is nowhere near as bad and extreme as hers, it was just like, oh, like, it's just nice seeing a little bit of like the representation. And even though they are like very vastly different, and on like different levels, it was just like, it was cool seeing. And she also has like a service dog, and that dog has like a lot of personality and is like a big character in the book, and I thought that was very fun and interesting. Something I felt kind of neutral about, but you might have feelings about, is that every chapter had a drink recipe at the beginning. I was listening to the audiobook, so for me, it was pretty annoying. So I guess it wasn't neutral, but like for me, it was like pretty annoying because I had to listen to a drink recipe every time, and I was like, if I was reading it, I could just skip it, but I had to like listen to the whole thing every time. Um, and as somebody who like doesn't drink, it was like not very interesting, but I would say they're not all alcoholic. Like a lot of them were like, she calls them 0 proof cocktails. So whether you drink alcohol or not, you could make a lot of the drinks in it. And some of the drinks she wrote specifically for the book. So you might be very interested in that and like learning some of the drinks in this book. And that might be interesting to you, but for me it wasn't, because I was like, I don't know half the words you're saying. I don't know anything about any of these. So that was like, I could take it or leave it. It would have been better if I was physically reading, because then I could have just like skimmed that part. Also, the main character is very, very stupidly rich, and like it is called out multiple times, like even by her husband, being like, you were being very privileged and annoying about this, because she's just like never had anybody say no to her about anything, and so she's just kind of like stampeding by through people and stomping all over them. And like, I just don't find reading about like extraordinarily wealthy like billionaires or trillionaires to be very like fun, personally. But the mystery part was quite interesting, and the fact that she was like disabled was quite interesting. And I don't know, there were a lot of like red herrings in the books and like a whole bunch of things, so that was interesting. But I didn't like, I don't know, just like being like so massively wealthy that you could get like anything you wanted, and this is the first time in your life you're ever having anybody say no to you about anything, I did not find particularly interesting. Some So those are my hits and misses. Okay, next book. A Short History of the World According to Sheep by Sally Couthard. I've never met a Sally Couthard I didn't like. I've read 3 books by her so far. I've read this one. I read one about caterpillars, not caterpillars, sorry, about earthworms. And then I read one about chickens. So I really like them. They are very much, she goes on a more factual, more like start of the earth to present day, more all over the world kind of journey with all of her books. Like the one about chickens, I don't remember the name, but then the subtitle was like, um, a history of chickens from dinosaur to dinner table. I know it was like the full title or whatever. I don't remember the subtitle. But this one, A Short History of the World According to Sheep, is exactly what you would think it would be. She just goes over the history of the world, how sheep have influenced that all over the world, how we've bred them to get different things, where they are in our world right now, different types of fibers. So if you are a knitter or a crocheter, you might find the sections on like the fiber arts particularly interesting. But then there's like different parts of how they've like influenced things. One part I found interesting was that sheep are one of the only animals that are gay their whole lives, because there's a lot of animals that are gay for like parts of their lives, but sheep are one of the animals that are like homosexual their whole lives. Well, I guess not homo because they're not human, but they're gay their whole lives. The men will like pair up together and will do that for their entire lives. Anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. Read a lot of queer things this month. I will say, if you're looking for something, I wouldn't say this is like necessarily as easy. Like it's very short, and I would say like it is fairly easy to jump in, but it is maybe a little bit more. I wouldn't say her writing is very dense, but if you're not used to reading nonfiction, it might be a little bit harder to jump into. But if you're looking for something comparable but maybe a little bit easier to jump into, if you like memoirs, you might enjoy Vanishing Fleece by Clara Parks. I did not read this month. I read this a couple of years ago. But this is more of a memoir because it has a lot more personal stuff, but it's about this woman who decides to take a fleece and turn it into a, like a ball of wool or whatever. Not a ball of wool, a ball of yarn. Here we go. But she talks more about personal stuff, and it's specifically just focused in America, so it's less overwhelming. And especially if you're America focused, I think also, especially in like the current climate where people are like, we need to bring everything back to America, make everything in America right now. I mean, I did read this in, I don't know, probably 2022 or 2023, but it does make you realize like how much of our stuff just can't be made here because we just don't have the technology. Like it could be eventually if we like brought stuff back, but just like so much of the stuff, like the absolutely freaking journey she had to go on in order to like get this processed here and only here and not send things to other places is really hard, because sometimes there's like 2 machines left that can do this certain thing only in America and stuff, and it's just very interesting. And this might be like easier to jump into if you're looking for something that's a little bit more digestible if you're interested in like American wool. Anyway, okay, I have 2 more books to go. Okay, next one is Snow White. This is by Matt Phelan. I did read 2 books with Snow White in the title because I was reading from my list of prompts, and one was to read a book with the same word. Read read a book with the same word from your previous, same word in the title from your previous book. Sorry, my brain is absolutely fried at this point. And I had read Snow White Learns Witchcraft, and I was like, the last book I read was that. So I was like, let's reread Snow White, because this was a graphic novel that I really enjoyed. So I read it. I previously had given it 5 stars. I know I've been like, I gave this many stars, and then I bumped it up a star. I give it this many stars, and I bumped it up a star. Not true with this one. Previously, I'd given this 5 stars, and I bumped it down a star. So I think the first time I read this was probably in 2018. I was absolutely so freaking enamored with the artwork in this. It's a graphic novel that I wasn't really willing to judge how the story needed a little bit more padding, I think. So, I don't know. It's very, 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 like, super minimal words, honestly. It took me, like, no time at all to get through. And it's so beautiful. The artwork is this, like, just beautiful, like, pencil and color, watercolor, but it's all, like, black and white. And it's so stunning. I really love it. Artwork, 5 out of 5. But the story is really only, like, I don't know, a 3.5 or something. Like, there's just not a lot of substance there. Especially the storyline with the queen, the wicked queen. There's just, I don't know. It was a little lackluster this time. I think I was just so enamored the first time that I was just, it hurt my soul to give it anything less than 5 stars, because I was just like, the artwork is just too incredible. But the second time around, I was just like, but the story's just like, it's good. Like, it's a Snow White, you know? It's a Snow White. So this time around, I'm gonna go 4 stars. I'm still gonna keep it on my shelf. It's still a beautiful piece of artwork. I still really love it, but it's not as good as I once thought it was, unfortunately. Okay. I still recommend it. It's beautiful. And my final piece of book, my final book that I read. I'm not even going to rate this, but I finally read Animal Farm. It's by George Orwell. So this is a book that I never read in high school or anything. Again, because I was homeschooled and we just didn't read the typical things. And this, I finally read it, and it made me very depressed. It was so sad. I didn't expect it to make me so sad. I am still gonna read, like, 1984. I'd never read anything by George Orwell before, and I did. I don't know. I don't know what my thoughts are on it. I just figured I would share that I finally read Animal Farm. It's been on my TBR for so freaking long. I think it had been on my Goodreads TBR since, like, 2009 or 10 or something. So, like, 15 years it has been sitting there, lingering, languishing, and I finally read it, and I'm not even gonna give it a rating, because it's not like I really enjoyed it, but I didn't hate it or think it was bad. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. I think I'm still processing it, and it's been like a week, but I figured I would say I finally read Animal Farm. I can finally be like all the cool kids. Anyway, I read all those books. Plus, I decided not to finish 3 other books, but I'm not going to talk about them because I've already been talking about books for like 40 minutes. But yeah, I've had a very good reading week. I'm not currently reading anything because I just finished A Natural History of Dragons right before I finished filming or started filming, so I don't know what I'm going to read next, but I'm sure I will have another stack of books next time I see you, hopefully in about a week. And if you did get to the end of this, yeah, feel free to leave like a butterfly or mushrooms or, yeah, butterfly or mushroom in the comments below. And I appreciate you being here, and I will see you, yeah, hopefully in about a week. Bye, everyone.